Maggie Price is the co-founder, former editor, and current contributor to the Pastel Journal, writing articles for this and other publications. Maggie has formerly studied fine arts and has attended many workshops with well-known artists. She currently conducts pastel workshops of her own in the U.S. and abroad. Maggie is an active member in numerous art societies and is the president of the International Association of Pastel Societies. You can learn more about her work at maggiepriceart.com. In this video workshop, Maggie shows you how an underpainting roadmap of values and temperatures will lead you to a beautiful final painting, strong in value structure and flooded with sunlight.
We had determined that the sunlight is coming this way, so on this edge, the sun is pretty high in the sky. This is shadow. I can see that this is shadow. This is still sunlight, so this needs to go a little lighter. What can be confusing in foliage is that individual leaves can actually cast shadows on other leaves. So when you're blocking in, you have to decide, well, that's more sunlight or more shadow. But when you get down to the final applications of color, then you have to figure out which is which. This mass right here is casting a shadow on this, but even within this mostly sunlit section, some of the leaves are in shadow. That's what makes foliage challenging and fun. So I'm still trying not to think about leaves, but towards the edges where I apply the masses of foliage, I apply them in little short choppy strokes. And you'll notice I'm not worrying at all about covering up every bit of that yellow. I'm going to let quite a bit of it show. It's giving this that energy and life and heat that this method is so good for. If you really look at this in the photograph, you see a lot of yellows and oranges in there. I'll add a few oranges in as I work on this, but it's good to let your underpainting show. So this section can take a fair amount of time. We're going to work back and forth. I have basically most of the colors determined. This is yet to be determined. I'll just give that a quick application of color. It's kind of a peachy orange. I don't need to put too much on it yet, but I just want to remind myself that that is a different color than this. In here, some of those sunspots are going to pick up that same color. I'll get back to those later, but that's a nice little color note to just remind me that that has to happen. And then I know that this is rock, this is that green, bright green grass. But for now, I think what needs to happen next is to take this foliage a little farther through the darkest values, the middle darks, and the lightest darks. So I'm going to just keep on working with that with a variety of colors. So now I have blocked in, and in some cases almost finished, all of the areas of foliage in the trees and these bushes. And I've done that with a mix of the dark green I was using initially, the middle value green, a middle light green, a dark orange, a middle orange, and some fairly light yellow green. I haven't actually put any yellow in there. The yellow you see is still the underpainting showing through in little flecks here and there. And I think it gives it a sparkle and a liveliness that you couldn't get any other way. Laying yellow on top is not as effective as revealing. In some cases where I think I maybe have a little too much green, I can come back with my foam brush and just flick off little bits so that I see the yellow again. It's time now to move to the middle values and middle lights in this area, in the sunlit area, and in the shadow area, the middle darks, and restating some of the darks. Sometimes I find it helpful to develop one whole type of thing, for instance, a whole bunch of trees or a whole bunch of bushes, rather than going over the whole surface and saying, well, this little orange right here might be needed here. This is a different type of thing. These are vertical grasses and a couple of little bushes, so I like treating them a little separately. I might end up using a few different colors on those, which helps the viewer believe that those are different objects. These trees and these bushes all relate to each other, so using all the same colors there is just fine. So I'm going to begin in here. I see quite a bit of orange, and this is kind of a middle value rusty orange, and it kind of spills over the top of this hillside. I suspect there are some rocks in there that we don't quite see, but I'm going to just lay a little of this in before I put the green on. I think it'll give it a little more glow. And then begin with some ashy greens, middle value or middle dark value. Even in a small area like this, I still work from dark to light. If I have darks, I put them in right away. I see a little place where I could use a little really dark. Now, it'll never be as dark as if I had put it down by itself initially, but that's okay. I don't need it to be quite that dark here. But I want to help describe and imply this cliff moving down. I want you to believe in this little rocky outcropping here that the grass is going to sit on top of. Direction of stroke can really help you describe something like that. You might not know exactly what's there, but the direction of stroke will help you know that it's moving downward. So it's a nice thing to do. A little more dark shadow right up in the edge of this cliff, and then popping up right in front of it is a little green bush. I painted its shadow side already earlier on when I had the right color in my hand, but I'll give it a little sparkly sunlit side. And then there's another one below it that's a different kind of bush and kind of sits closer to the ground. Maybe it's not even a bush so much as ground cover. There's a little different green. And then it needs a deep shadow right underneath its base. This is a really nice color. This is a dark green that has just a little blue in it, and I really like it for these shadows across the grass. I might, in fact, while I've got it in my hand, just turn it on its side and throw a few more right in here where I know I'm going to need that deep, dark blue-green, and some more down here. Sometimes when you see something like that, you've got the right pastel in your hand, there's no point in saying, oh, well, I'm not really ready for that section yet. Just go for it while you've got it in your hand.